Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the desk. Mars Swan, Midnight, Melvin Izzle, Joshi. I got it this time. I got it the right way. Welcome back to the desk. LJL OU here, bringing you the coverage of the LJL 2021 Summer Split Grand Finals between Rascal Jester and Detention FocusMe. Detention FocusMe leading this series 1-0 after I would argue a very convincing victory coming into game number 2. Gentlemen, gonna give a free form here. What do Rascal Jester need to do differently coming into this series? Or this match specifically?
Pick a good jungler.
I was gonna say,
Jungler.
are we just allowed to take shots at draft? Is that allowed as an answer? Because
To a point,
I
yeah.
feel like the draft is something that just needs adaptation. We talked about it at the end of last game. We'll talk about it coming into this game. And if things don't change in game 2, we'll talk about it going to game number 3. You can't just stay stagnant in a best of series when it comes to drafting. If you're going to do that, well, the coffin is there. You might as well get in the forever box.
Isn't that what DFM did against Axis and then they went 3-0?
But they were winning. You don't have to adapt if you're already winning.
I went for Rascal Jester, sorry. I should have specified that. This is needed for Rascal Jester, sorry.
I'm just like, well, if neither team do any adaptation, we'll definitely get a 3-0 some way. I just don't know how we're going to get it there. Melvin Izzle, sir, coming to you because I'm concerned with the play that we saw from Rascal Jester that time around. And on the green room, Nymera brought up a rather good point. What do Rascal Jester do when recap isn't on Syndra?
Well, at this point, we don't really have a good answer for it, but I think that it comes kind of back to the draft of give them a jungler that can facilitate them. Because one of the main benefits you have with a Jarvan is level 2, level 3 early game ganks, right? Especially against the Ryze, against the Varus. Orianna does not facilitate those. Ryze facilitates those.
Oh,
so it's one of those ones of, even if we just saw a Twisted Fate thrown out, something along that vein to give them point and click CC, even that is an option. If it's not something you are particularly comfortable on, it's not the worst thing in the world just to chuck out and be able to match the global presence that DFM are throwing out there.
Right?
I think there's other options as well, too. Like we saw in their Game 5 victory up against DFM in the Juggernaut match, they played Zoe in the mid lane, right? It's another champion. Well, it's not as easy to necessarily get this set up originally. You have a fantastic follow-up for what Jarvan's actually going to be doing. You land the knockup, it makes a very easy Sleepy Trouble bubble, and that should convert into a kill almost every single time if Steel isn't around to do anything about it.
Zoe's definitely an option. Syndra, obviously, if she gets it. I feel like Recap has also played LeBlanc, but that's going to be perma-banned as well.
Yeah.
So maybe something new?
He played a Sylas a long time ago.
It's not bad.
I mean, Sylas is playable, but it's against Arya, who might be the best Sylas and maybe top 10 in solo queue.
That would have actually been an astounding Sylas game, but obviously it wouldn't have played out the same way looking at the draft. But just looking at, there's only good ultimates to steal.
Midnight. Sir.
I mean, at this, yes.
What's your prediction right now? Because we've got to go over to our class in a brief moment. So I want to just get your prediction, how you're feeling right now.
I'm feeling a little bit nervous. I was confident that the break would have given Rascal Jester something, some sort of strategy, some champion picks, anything, and then your first pick blind picking Renekton without banning Gnar. Like, I'm really worried. I really want Rascal Jester to do well, but if you're gonna draft like that, I'm afraid DFM is going to put you down every single time. So game 2, just please adapt. I'm begging you.
Other two of you, will they adapt? Yes or no?
No. Next game they will, though.
Yes.
That's my prediction. Next game they will.
I think they're gonna have to try and do something different, but there are so many places where I felt like they went wrong that it's hard to say what single thing they're gonna do to adapt. Do you not pick up the Renekton? Do you pick up the Gnar for yourself instead? Like, there's a lot of different ways that you can actually do this correctly. I just feel like they picked one of the worst possible drafts.
Well, you know who two gentlemen I do know of mine, very close to my heart as well, that will give us that information. It's Initializer Nymera. Gentlemen, our two casters, take it away.
We've been asked a question, Nymera.
Have we?
We have.
Good.
Do we think they're going to adapt in draft?
I think they'll try. I think they will try.
Okay.
I'm not sure that they're going to succeed. We see same sides again, and Rascal Jester might let the Nidalee ban slip. In fact, I think that might be a
The
good
option?
idea.
No.
In fact, they're sticking to the same guns. So, about that, they might adapt.
No,
I
thus
wonder
far.
about that. I wonder actually if this is going to be the case, whether it be a first pick Varus. Instead, it's the Aphelios. Bot lane still focused, though.
Okay, so they're going to pick up the Aphelios. I need to see whether something like the Thresh is a potential takeaway here from DFM. Instead, they'll go the Renekton alongside the Rise, two very strong solo lanes there for DFM. So I think they're feeling okay with the trade, but it is a change in priority here. They might give a little bit more shove potentially to Soul and Secret. There's the Thresh.
So, production, backroom, whoever's listening, maybe someone is. I don't know. I don't know who's listening out there. I actually would love to know when the last time Ebby played Renekton is, because I know that Renekton has been banned against this player so much. I remember entire best of fives where this was picked or banned against Ebby. He was not allowed to have it. Of course, this is going to go into Kanatu now. We could see the reverse of this matchup.
Sure.
We could see something like a Ken come in instead, various other things that can pull it out. But I was saying even last game, wow, I really love Renekton Rise as a solo lane pairing. It gives you that bridge to go into that mid game. It gives you the ability to play aggressively around the top side of the map. And I have that Ezreal on the bot side. As much as the Aphelios and the Thresh are going to be a very strong duo, scale up and be a real threat, the Ezreal is one of the champions which survives the best against it.
Yeah, so obviously Utapon has generally, as we've said before, been left a little to the weak side, left a little to the wolves. They do want to play around the kind of dominance their solo lanes can have, which is fair enough, but Utapon now on the Ezreal, it's one of the more self-sufficient picks. It allows Gang to get out of lane. Only thing is, of course, it is now Sol and Secret on a lane that can get a lot of work done in that bot side, so trading serious priority across the map. Now to see what DFM want to ban up against. Looking like mainly Kanatu right now. Gwen's off the table, has been a pick that they've used before and things like Renekton.
Camille's going to be banned as well.
Camille's not a bad
I wonder
option.
if Camille's
Potentially the Gnar as well, if they don't want to take that matchup.
But
and don't want to
Kanatu is
reverse it.
my feeling is that it's actually going to be Trottles though. So they don't care about the AD answers from top lane, it seems like. I think they just back Evie to win those matchups.
Do want to call out that I think it's quite interesting as well that we've got ourselves things like the Trundle being banned by DFM this series. Because of course in the last series, we saw serious priority from DFM on the Trundle. And I wonder whether in part that was saying, look, we still want to give Hatchemetcha that champion because it's like his most played champion of all time or something, I think, that Trundle. Certainly one of his higher pick ones. And it had been rising in priority. They've decided they just want to ban it away and don't want to deal with it this series, and that seems to have been better for Steel as well because he gets a little bit more priority in the mid game rather than just the early game skirm, which is a bit more engaged for him. Locks in the Jins out again, but of course the Viego slipped through this time, and that means it is going to be locked in. Could go jungle. There's an outside chance of top.
But the thing is with this Viego, with the Nocturne locked in. All right, that potentially does lock that Viego into top and then put the Nocturne into the jungle.
Could be.
We haven't really seen Nocturne solo lane for
a while. I mean, it still could be Nocturne solo.
I would definitely prefer it to be jungle since they changed the passives.
Sure.
But even then, like now Rascal Jesters have this composition where they're much more happy to kite back now. Much more happy than the game last game. Yes, you can force out a Crescent Guard. You can force out the Unbreakable Will coming out of the Alistair too, but you land a Threshook. You have a Shockwave to buy some extra time too, and you set up the pins, and Sol knocks them down like a freaking bowling ball.
Yeah, and the thing is, you do not have the same issues of buckshot and then done. Like, you have got more than just the Wombo this time. You've got serious extended damage between an Aphelios and an Orianna, and honestly, even the Viego as well, that is looking like it's going into the top lane, as you called. DFM have drafted largely the same as last game. They've got another poke champion in the bot lane. It's not the Varus this time, but it is, of course, the Ezreal. It's a little bit safer, especially if they are going to be prioritizing that Renekton early. But it is this top side change-up alongside the Aphelios Thresh I think is most interesting to talk about for Rascal Jesters.
Yeah, except my worry is with that top side is Viego is not strong in lane anymore. You survive, but you're not strong. You're not going to push out a Renekton. You're not going to trade up. Nocturne in the jungle does not get that same hyper farming to level 6. Yes, Gigabyte Marines aside, way back when they were still called the Gigabyte Marines rather than just Garm, they managed to get that early level 6 and make some interesting Nocturne plays. But as much as Hatchemetcha is a very innovative early game pathing jungler, I don't think you're going to be winning topside early. And if you do not solidify your early game through topside well enough, DFM are going to snowball through the Renekton Rise and you're going to have a horrible time of things. So we need to see what they did in game 1, actually. Secure that early game, make sure it is uneventful, get into that mid game where you can start playing around the Aphelios.
If you can get to level 6, if you can get to 1, 2 items on most of these characters, Rascal Jesters comp is a force to be reckoned with. You get resets on Viego, you can jump in from miles away with Nocturne, you've got a Aphelios for Sol with Secrets Thresh. Like, this looks wonderful stuff for them. I'm looking over at DFM and going, they're not exactly mad about their picks either.
No. What you do have this time is a much longer range composition than what DFM have, and ways to actually, again, peel back and deal with that range advantage, right?
Response. It's a nice change up. It's what we asked for. We asked for adaptation, at least in the picks, even if not the bans. And thus far, we've got it. I will say there's a risk, and that is that
you dive into the Rise and you die.
Yeah, well, you go too deep because DFM have got a much better front line. They've got Renekton and Alistair and Jinzao with the Crescent Guard. If they stand in the way and prevent you getting to the Nocturne that's gone in super deep, like, great, you shot-waved an Alistair, and suddenly, like, you're way too deep, you go down, and then it's like, okay, I'm now down big ultimates and we've lost a member. Like, that is a worry here, because your only really big engage option is Nocturne plus Oriana Ball, plus maybe a good Gravitamal from Sol, but everything else is a little bit more pick related, and that could hurt Rascal Jesters, especially if they dive and realize that was a bad engage.
So, looking out at the whole series, though, this is such a crucial game for Rascal Jesters to prove that DFM showed what they wanted to play in Game 1, and effectively they have played the same style of composition in Game 2, where you play through topside, strong solo lane Brawn, which muscles out the game. If they can answer that in Game 2 with an adaptation in draft, that then puts the onus back onto DFM to start adapting in turn. It goes that ping-pong, goes back and forth and back and forth. Rascal Jesters win here. I think this series gets very, very close with the draft adaptations. If DFM win here, I think we're going close towards that shutout that a lot of people predicted.
I think there's that knife's edge. Either we're on the verge of a very close series or on the verge of a bit of a shutout. I completely agree. I personally edged in the predictions on the 3i, if only because that way I can beat Reed and therefore be the predictions master. I'm that close to winning the predictions for this split. But this is, as you said, potentially the most important game in terms of the tone of the series.
Yeah, because I actually think that right now, what we've seen in Best of Fives over this finals period for this split is Game 1 doesn't always have to mean that much, right? For me, Game 2 is actually more important than Game 1 because you have the ability to run it back and change minimal things and hope that the other team just plays into what they won with in Game 1. That they don't adapt themselves. They don't think that extra step ahead.
Ooh.
And with the AI, things do seem very, very...
Speaking of knife's edge.
Yeah. This is walking down the razor's edge. No talent involved, although... Longswords always are the key. We'll never contest that one. This is, of course, Arya saw Secret Step Up to put that ward down. And with Arya getting some XP off of that, they are going to get the level 2 off of Wave 1, potentially giving Arya a little bit extra priority in that lane to help steal out in this mid-jungle 2v2, which is already winning for Rascal, for DFM, rather.
Both junglers getting leashless start here. They didn't get any support from their solo laners, or just from their lanes in general, I apologize. Bot lanes are lanes too. Sorry about that. Explains a lot with my playstyle as a jungler. My bot lanes are forever angry at me, apparently. There's that level 2 you called out from the ward. Arya certainly does get it. Starts to be as obnoxious as possible, but now Recap gets level 2 in trade and start using Command Protect to try and dissuade some of that early aggression that Arya was putting out. Level 2 hit for Salt and Secret, and of course, it's Aphelios and Thresh, so Sever and Calibrum at level 1 and 2 allows quite a lot of shove.
That it does. If you ever give Aphelios access to a wave, it's really, really annoying for the enemy bot lane because you can't really deny them getting all of those stacks put up on that Conqueror amongst... Oh, it's actually Lethal Tempest.
Ebby.
Okay.
Needs to flash, potentially. He's got Cull the Meek up. It's going to be quite hard to get the kill. Flash is out from that one, gets the stun, but it's flash for flash.
Okay, so Kinadzu turning the tables from Game 1, and this is so... crucial. This is going to be a teleport back into lane from Ebby, but this is a complete flip-flop on what happened in that matchup earlier, and this is one of a great many reasons why we praise Kinatu and what he has managed to achieve on the LJL scene in his debut year in the LJL. Trades incredibly well very early into Ebby there, and gets himself a flash and a teleport at the trade for just his flash.
That's the price of trading that heavily in the minion wave. You don't get to clear the wave out that early as Renekton, even with Golden Meek. So got a little bit chunked out there. I think it was a really good Spectral Maw as well to prevent the stun from Ebby meaning as much. And now Steels
still has an angle.
Has got an angle, and now Sol and Secret need to be a little afraid. Lance the Wind becomes lightning, but that will be an attempted turnaround now. It's just the hook back, so not a lot to be found. Secret gonna be not Secret. Cannot see the top side, gets a big trade, but it's kind of traded back by Ebby. Here comes Hatchet.
This looks like a dive. Is Arya in position to TP? That's the key thing here. You don't have jungler on top side, but you do have your Ryze.
He's resetting.
Ready to go. Ryze is backing. We'll have items going towards top side. They see it now, and actually maybe it looks like with the communication from mid laners, Rascal Jesters might call off this dive.
Oh, they're going to turn it around themselves. That's a big stun.
Oh,
Can you imagine? So low. And now Hatchet is coming over. That's now teleporting from Recap, who's in a difficult position. He's been room prisoned. Ebby needs to find a potential set of Hatchet is trying to turn it around with the Umbral Glaive. It's not Umbral Glaives. It's the passive from, I forget what.
Hello, everybody. No drama.
Hello.
Me and Joshi here to come and cover in while technical difficulties are happening on the mainstream. Reed, could I just get the quick stream through Discord? Thank you, sir. As we come in, currently I don't believe anything has happened, Joshi. So we haven't missed anything at the moment. How are we feeling about the lane states right this moment in time?
Honestly, I have to praise Kinatsu for having a much stronger earlier game than we previously saw in other games. I knew this was going to be a very difficult matchup for this Viego, and he's doing a very good job at actually creating some small advantage. Now, we'll see how quickly that turns around when Evie starts to get a couple more levels, but so far, it's a pretty big bright spot for this team that we weren't necessarily super excited for coming into this game.
Yeah, DFM are just going to be taking this dragon at this moment in time. Still currently doing Raptor camp at the moment, having to do a reset after that disappointing execution that they tried to make and play around topside. Once Nymera and Initialize are good and connected and back in, we will be departing. But at this moment in time, we're just filling in. And that's a really impressive point, Joshi, because that dive that they tried to do in topside went pretty badly, right? Like, a lot of it was blown from Rascal Jester, and they didn't really capitalize with any pressure. If anything, it actually was net DFM.
It was honestly kind of an interesting play coming through back and forth, right? We saw the Nocturne come up looking for just a crash, and then Evie was just ready to turn it right on its head. Arya was already on his way up. We see the teleport coming through, and I feel like there are ways for DFM or Rascal Jester to convert that into a bit of a kill, but we're seeing a lot more proactive moves happening from DFM. We saw this play last game.
We absolutely did. They're coming in. 1, 2, 3. Combo double knockup from Gang. They're huge damage. That's first blood over to the side of Detention FocusMe and into the pockets of Arya. What a performance from this star mid laner and a huge rotation.
It seems like we've enjoyed blue so much on this broadcast that what we've done is we had a blue screen. Thank you so much for covering our blushes there.
Yeah,
and blue dabba dee dabba bot lane has died. Sam, take it away.
Well, you saw that would come in. I actually feel that Marswan and Joshi did a phenomenal job stepping in.
We've got job security to be worried
I know,
about.
I'm a bit worried. Are we going to get replaced literally mid-series? That is not what I want to see. They did a fantastic job. We come back in as the bot lane gets a hold of first blood off a wonderful, you guessed it, Realm Warp play from Arya. Of course, now we've got to be a little aware that Hatchematch is not far off 6 in the moment I talk about it. There it is. Paranoia now available. That could get a little spicy.
Almost as paranoid as I am about another blue screen happening to us mid-cast as Son's Secret do make their way up from that bot lane. And now you have the, one of my favorite terms I keep liking to refer to, the Sword of Damocles.
Yes.
It's all well and good DFM have themselves the lead, but you start pushing up in a lane, you feel so good about yourself, there's that sword hanging by a thread just above your head, and that sword is by the name of Hachimecha. In this case, he's on that Nocturne. He's going to start flying in. He's going to hold you to account. And Kinatsu does have himself an even lane state right now. He has himself even in CS, gone back for a double Doran's Blade, so he has that extra laning brawn to start working with. DFM, actually in response to the Nocturne now being active and available, move their duo lane rather into mid. Of course, Ari is there too, to stop the numbers advantage being so oppressive. Of course, the Herald's here too, and it is a 5-man stack from our reigning champions.
Everybody is here. It's 5-man from everybody. Kinatsu is in the Harrow path. That's a hook. They're going to go in on to Utapon, who survives, though, and the turnaround is here. They didn't have the damage, and thus Utapon survives and gets the kill, and now the Crescent Guard's coming flying out, and they're trying to get a bit more. The spell flux comes through. That's Kinatsu over the wall, but doesn't really have the damage. And now, actually, it's DFM with the kill, with the man advantage, and with a very alive Utapon who had to burn no summoners. He's still got heal available, bloody hell. They get to turn back and take the Herald as well.
And this is exactly what you pointed out. Hang on, what happens if Rascal Jesters dive too deep? As I said, we already set up this play saying, all right, DFM know that Nocturne is available on the map. Let's not split up. Let's not go and put ourselves into a numbers disadvantage. And yes, the hook does land onto Ezreal, the best target you could probably land it onto at that point. If you get to kill off that carry, DFM don't really have the sustained DPS if you manage to zone out with a shockwave, someone like the Rise 2. But they managed to stick that landing. That's another phrase which keep landing. It's very gymnastics labeled broadcast today.
I've not got scorecards. Is that a problem?
We can maybe make one. Maybe we can get Melvin to print one out.
Yeah. Can you get one up for our casting? Actually, that's really risky to do live on air. Maybe not. We could do that.
Maybe not that one. Maybe don't put us on blast just
Oh
then.
boy.
But if I was going to give some store cards to how that play worked out, I really like what Steel did there at the end of that fight. Give him a high score for just saying, look, okay, might not lead to kills, but let's go in with the Crescent card, because we're not going to fight before this cooldown's back up, but I can chunk out Recap. Doesn't really matter so much for Sol, because he had that Severum to heal himself back up that wave, but managed to get Recap down to about a third HP, and make sure that Orianna turnaround is no longer present.
I need to keep an eye on some of these deep wards from DFM as well, how they manage to keep them, as Sol's actually picked up a sweeper as well. There's so many sweepers, in fact, for Rascal Jesters, because they want to make sure the map is as dark as possible to make sure the paranoias are even more potent.
Exactly, and because it's all well and good, you know, thinking that, oh, we can just group up and deal with the Nocturne, and Steel actually is choosing to do that again. Realm Warp's coming in.
He gets the knock-up flash of that free talent strike, but there's the fear that comes through, and that means the flash doesn't really amount to too much flash for flash on the junglers.
But now the question is, okay, who is the flash most crucial on to keep? I would actually say right now, because Rascal Jesters have looked like they're going to primarily engage with the Nocturne, and honestly, Rascal Jesters lack some of that engage themselves. If you can't flash follow to keep that fear tether on, I would be worried about what you're doing. Got to play into the bot side, though.
Utapon and Sol now trading up. But Sol's kind of kept in an awkward position. The hook goes wide, and yes, the turrets come down, but it's just trades of health bars right now. Mounted Dragon's alive, and Ari and Recap starting to jockey for position. They're going in onto
no flash on Steel.
Onto Steel. He's the one it's most important on for now. That flash being down is going to be so critical. He gets some damage down, but it's not going to be enough. Arya now in a spot of bother, but manages to Rune Prism and phase rush his way away with the help of the flash. But the teleport committed from Kinatsu gets the kill onto Steel. They'll get a dragon as well.
Okay.
Nice turnaround play from Jesters. Maybe baited to that one a little bit.
I take it back. Steel being flashless means that he can't position aggressively. Certain can't position that aggressively if you don't have the Realm Warp to answer as well. The great thing about Realm Warp against Paranoia is that if your team is communicating where the fight is happening, which this is pro level, you should be communicating that. The Realm Warp is untargeted. You don't need to target that onto something like a ward, which is then, of course, taken out of vision by the Paranoia. The first start of this play is actually, I think, really well played by Gang, because Secret catches them out. So Secret, forces the issue and says, all right, you don't want to walk next to the wall, because that's where it's easiest to hit hooks. Goes in, gets the Aftershock, has itself the ult as well, and it also separates Sol away from the people that want to be standing in front of him, giving this Aphelios some time to free fire. Then Steel overstays for this ward. You don't have a lantern yourself. You don't have the ability to disengage this, and Steel just overstays a bit. No, because Rascal Jester know that the Realm Warp is down. There's no immediate response available.
And that was literally as Gang and Utapon walked just too far away to come and help. And Ari was just too far away. That was really good from the Jesters, because that is an overstay by the finest of margins. And they managed to separate him off, but of course DFM still have the Herald. And they're going to be able to play it for this bot tower for more plates.
And you know what is really great about that? Something that we mentioned pre-game, mentioned it to game one, because it has been a factor in the Juggernaut match, going further than that too. Secret being in position to catch people out. Something which Joshi talked to us a lot about, saying, actually, just even through spring, everything else, Secret has been this player who will continually be stood in a position which threatens people, catches people out like no one else in the LJL does right now. He finds a very important one here in Game 2, and that's a big difference between Game 1 and Game 2.
All right, there is no paranoia quite available yet. It's on about 10, 15 seconds cooldown. DFM have double teleports available. They're bringing the double in.
Here's the double.
Here's the double, but it's going to be a triple turnaround. Ebby's going forwards, looking to get something, forced to flash out of secret, but now Ebby's in trouble. He's gone too deep, flashing away himself. He's got the dominance pop, needs to escape, but he's got a paranoia on top of him. In comes Canelto, but he's been knocked up. Hachimecha gonna go down. Ebby escapes. They get the kill. They get the tower, and DFM escape with their lives.
Risky business. Ebby goes in a little too early, but it's just enough. It is just in time, and as we see there at the end of that fight, the Crescent Guard against longer range backlines is so important. This is why this champion, alongside Gwen, who got a similar thing with the W, has continually managed to keep themselves coming in to meta. DFM get themselves a kill, get themselves that tower, and they start accelerating the gold lead. Actually not too far from what they did last game. Got themselves almost that 2,000 gold lead, but of course in this time, it's not going to be a bit of an impotent Renekton in that top side. It's a Viego that's got themselves a plate, got themselves a bit of gold to their name, and should be a threat coming into the later stages of this confrontation.
We've also got to call out at this point as well that is a lot of bot lane focus for once from DFM. They've decided to invert a little bit and try and put this Aphelios and Thresh a little bit behind, you know, stop the Aphelios Thresh from doing the Aphelios Thresh things, and it's been, honestly, relatively effective thus far.
You know what's great about this? This is one of the reasons why I love talking about DFM. I would love to see this team go to Worlds if they were. Of course, if Rascal Jesters succeed today, they will show they have overcome such competition, will be, of course, very deserving themselves. But on paper, DFM have all of the tools available in their mechanics shed to put together whatever game plan they want. They have one of the best AD carries in the region, the best solo lanes in the region, maybe the best support in the region too. You know, all of these players featuring in first or second slots in all pro teams and the like. And that means that they can, if the calling card is put down, go towards bot lane. They can answer these threats. I mean, in 2020, they even did that without Arya, and they did that against the likes of CGA with Gango, who was so powerful in the bot lane when he was dominant. That's one of the ways they ended up beating them in the 2020 Summer Playoffs as well. It was a great series from them. DFM returning to that kind of style again. Jungle proximity, as you said, on straight towards that bot lane, whereas Rascal Jesters, they had to kind of bail out the mid-jungle 2v2 with that extra presence from Hachimetra on the knockdown.
DFM turn up for this second Herald. Doesn't look like there's going to be much contest at this point. So that is just another objective coming down. It's more ways to shove the map closer, and that makes Hachimetra's life harder. The less dark room that DFM don't have control over, or rather, the harder it is for this Nocturne to kind of find the unexpected angles. Of course, there's a fantastic game if you've not played it. Very entertaining. If
all I remember from that game,
rude.
all I remember from that game is that everything you choose is wrong, and it ends with you die, which is kind of what happened in Game 1. Thinking about it,
wow,
that's odd. Everything's oddly topical today, Sam. We have like the blue screen buff for the blue team. DFM looks like they're doing pretty okay right now. We've got a dark room and lots of death being involved in favor of them too. I mean, Rascal Jesters, as much as we'd like to joke about them having the last laugh, and that is a line we have used to absolute death in this split, they're going to have to find themselves a way to kind of break this early gold lead and to find a way to get to those team fights where Sol, this all-star player, crazy carry for this team, can get online and start impacting this game more.
All right, so DFM now holding core in this mid lane. They've got Arya and Steel roaming their way down to start fighting for this dragon. They got the wave shoved in top. Canartis got himself Divine Sandra. In fact, most of these mythics are up across the board. It's the Gale Force Aphelios again. Interesting, that's been the option.
Low range.
Even with
low range comp.
Yeah, exactly, that one. Even with, you know, of course, the Immortal Shield Bow being the standard we've seen over the last few months. Steel takes a pretty nasty command attack dissonance combo. But now it's just all 5 members of both teams trying to find an angle here. All ultra up. Every flash but secrets is up alongside Ebby, so lots of summoners to burn as well.
So what gets put into that river brush? There's a Herald, the second Herald, remember? Looks like being shoved down towards that bot lane. I think it was timing out. Sol chooses to push up that mid lane. You see how tenuous this dance is, how flitting back and forth it becomes. DFM chooses to take that dragon. They're realming back towards safety to wave the
wave! But it's still in the tower. There's a Crest. Got the tie around from Gang. True Shot Barrage comes through as well. And now Rascal Jester got to try and find a way out. Hachimetra has to flash away and does so. Shockwave is good, but it only comes actually at a cost of a double flash from Hachimetra and Sol, who had to burn everything there.
Don't do that in 15 minutes, DFM, because that loses you a game in the grand finals. Recap on point, just puts the ball up on where that destination is going to be. It does
Place ball here, big side, and neon glowing lights.
It does save the turret, so I guess based on results-based analysis, ends up being okay. They end up taking aggro.
Ooh,
and
Ebby.
it's a problem. Ebby is pushed up, doesn't have the Dominus, does have the E.
Here we go.
He's gonna have to get out though.
He does get away, and actually the tether doesn't land from the fear proc.
He's
So
out
he just
of it.
gets to E out of it. So
It's the
he has to
Renekton
walk away.
special.
Yeah.
You let them take a step beyond you, and then you just run through them twice. Had the flash too. Were there to be a flash follow from Hatch Metro, but of course he didn't even have that. Summoner, that's a big freebie, thinking about it.
Of course, the official stream there also highlighting the mythic choice from Hatchemetcha. It's not a stride breaker, of course, especially since all the changes and nerfs. It's going to be the Gore Drinker option to try and offer a little bit more staying power.
We talked about diving too deep. You are into 4 very long-range champions and then the Ezreal too. That is something which allows you to get good value out of your Gore Drinker. You can go into the clump and then hopefully get yourself a way to regen. I would still suggest maybe a GA is going to be built up
possibly
into
an
the
option.
near future. I wonder if actually GA should be better, because Starix is great if you are actually getting solo lane farm and all this other stuff, but you have 1 spell shield. If you're diving into 4 people, you're probably going to die regardless. I
Sure.
wonder if the GA should be a better build, although of course it looks like with the double Ruby Crystal going towards that Starix second regardless.
Definitely looks like it. DFM holding an advantage about 1,500 gold. It's a tower for a tower. It's the slight Drake advantage, but Rascal Jesters have stopped too much of a snowball happening
Yeah,
right
because
now.
the gold lead hasn't increased. and
No, it hasn't.
That tells quite a lot, right? Because if the gold lead keeps increasing, you kind of know that a team is starting to steamroll. They're using their combat stats and the leverage they have across towers and everything else to start closing out the game. DFM have not managed to destabilize the game, though. And this is kind of what happened in game 1 too, where Rascal Jesters found themselves in a position where eventually they could team fight. They have a better team composition to team fight than they did in that last game. So DFM, some questions have been leveled against them about their team fighting and how they sometimes find themselves trying to do too much at once. And it's all well and good when they're so far ahead that they can achieve all of that with their mechanical outplays. But I think Rascal Jesters have all of the abilities and strength necessary to fight off said attempts.
But now, of course, DFM have managed to get the second outer tower in that top side, so they've managed to get themselves in a position where they can start to do their old faithful of the 1-3-1. Ebby's on the Renekton, Ari's on the rise, Ari's got 2 kills. Those are all good things to be able to shove up the side lanes. It's just, and of course, in the 1v1s, I think they've got fairly decent matchup options here. The only thing I'll say is that the kind of fly in the ointment is a very large and dark one named Hatchemetcha on the Nocturne, who can turn up at a moment's notice from a long, long, long way away, which could make that play pattern a bit challenging for DFM if they're not aware of where the Nocturne is.
Always wondered why Nocturne just hovered, levitated.
That's it, I figured it out.
Turns out he's just a really big bug. It's like we thought it was Kha'Zix. No. Yeah, I don't hear buzzing when I hear Kha'Zix in the field. Not sure I hear it now. That's besides the point. Hatchemetcha sadly not really found the best responses in his own ultimate so far, but has hit level 11, does have some CDR coming through from the Gore Drink as well. Remember, the mythic passive from that item gives you 5 ability haste for every item completed beyond that first, so more paranoias, more problems for DFM. But again, like I said, as soon as Nocturne hit level 6, DFM just said, alright, okay, Ezreal, you're going mid, and that means that you're going to have the ability to play in the shorter lane with your dual lane, which is probably the target, actually, from Rascal Jester.
Sure.
It means that Utapon can scale up more than fine, and actually, one of the things about this Nocturne diving in is that if you're going into a Frozen Heart Ezreal, that actually is quite
hard to deal with, yeah.
Yes, it's all well and good that the shockwave can be attached to your jungler as they fly in, but Utapon is feeling pretty happy about things right now, as much as Sol has hit 2 items. I think both of these AD carries, as they so often do, going to become focal points very shortly into this game.
Yeah, they can definitely be the ones to really turn around these team fights, and on the right champions to do it for both of the players here. Aphelios and Ezreal, both kind of core picks for both players, actually. So excited to see what they can do as this game continues. DFM, though, are currently the ones with the advantage, at least in terms of the gold. It's about...
Yeah, they're starting to increase a little bit now.
Yeah,
kind
kinda-
of 2.5 now.
And of course, they've got the second or third dragon, rather, about just won't be Soul Point coming up in 10 seconds, and everyone's kind of congregating one more time. Are you ready?
Well, I wasn't really ready for the Britney Spears number, but sure, hit me one more time as Steel goes in for a little bit of a love tap themselves, dodges out on the hook. And this is one of those games where actually Cloud Soul seems very, very important. Lots of low-range champions, lots of people trying to run from a Nocturne. DFM going to burst this down. They have the damage to do so.
They're going to start going. Remember, Hachimecha still has the paranoia, so it's hard to keep him out of the pit. Watch when it's popped. Utapon isn't with the team taking the drag. He's off on the side, taking pot shots. Arcane shifts away from the death sentence, and they secure themselves Soul Point. Rascal Jesters didn't feel comfortable to engage.
They didn't, probably because they didn't have that vision. And again, you dive too deep. We saw what happened to Hachimecha the first couple of times. Rascal Jesters don't hold this corridor particularly effectively. Ezreal landing a couple of Mystic shots, and Gang positioning so aggressively.
Nice split.
Getting the second Cloud Dragon onto an Alistar is very important too, because we talked about, okay, so good front line from DFM, but that's actually largely ultimate relays. Dominus,
yes,
is very important. Crescent Guard, very important. Unbreakable Will, very important. The extra 10% ultimate ability, haste on that too, very crucial for this game. Heavy finds themselves a flank. Yuzutswan's E is forced.
That does prevent an easier engage. Of course, it's a flash, but that would be a hard commit. Instead, it's just saying, look, we'll bring Ebby over in case they try to really force down this tier 1 and leave Arya to create some issues on a side lane. Hachimecha's on vision, and that means that Arya can look to be aggressive in a side lane. But this is the issue right now. DFM, it's hard for them to really accelerate the pace of the game in a side lane because of Hachimecha, but instead, that was a Realm Warp. Just glance into the Baron picks. They weren't sure with Rascal Jesters disappearing off vision there for a second, whether they might have been sneaking a Baron, and sensible choice, but it does mean that cooldown's on cooldown.
Yes, you are right. Do have teleports to get back up on the map. They would have been able to respond to it in due time. DFM find themselves a bit of a freebie reset, actually. I wonder if Rascal Jesters could have committed to that and just said, all right, come at us, commit a teleport, see what happens. But I guess the worry with that is that then you commit to, oh, if we have to peel off and we haven't reset ourselves, then what happens if there's a revenge Baron start, as so often happens in these dances. And I think Rascal Jesters do have very good Baron damage. You have a lot of dominance regards onto the FLS, you have the right weapons, they just absolutely slaughter them. Recap is caught, though, in the side lane. Hachimecha is not here to respond just yet.
He's got phase rush, but the wind becomes lightning is flashed away from, and Secret with the Lantern was around as well. So, nice collapse there from DFM. They don't lose anything for it, and they gain the flash off Recap, which is a pretty critical target to get a hold of. Orianna with no flash is definitely a target for some of these more aggressive DFM members to try and punish.
Yes, completely correct about that one, because now you have the flash disparity between I know, sometimes you come up with points pretty well.
Every now and then.
Not that often.
Okay, okay.
I'm happy you
keep
saved
the ego kind of a medium level.
I'm glad that you saved it for the finals. You know, it's a very important time to be right about things. And we'll have to see, of course, now whether the flash disparity again between someone like Arya with that Rune Prison, Gang, Steel, all of the big close down threats can get on top of that. That's going to be a route onto Ebby. Use the E to get out. And actually, the amount of damage gone into there is traded back on Secret.
Okay, they're going to headbutt Hachimecha, though, who's kind of used the paranoia now. He's going to try and find his way out. He's actually in a really difficult position, gets knocked up and goes down! The jungler is dead! Again, this Nocturne just goes too deep. Now, Ebby has to slice and dice out of danger, but that's to the Dominus down. Instead, Arya Realm Warps to the other side, was thinking maybe an extended fight was going to come through, and DFM don't really get a lot more from this, even with that down. Gravitum only hits onto Arya, so not a huge amount of Soul takes a huge trade back, actually. His HP bar now blinking low as the True Shot Barrage takes Recap's HP to half as well. DFM win the fight, but don't feel comfortable enough to step over the Baron. There's a lot of damage still on Rascal Jesters.
Okay, so because we have to do our due diligence here, let's talk about other differences between this series and why DFM look like they're in the advantage, and why Rascal Jesters are not putting down the same amount of pressure they did in the Juggernaut match. Talked about getting a good jungle of Hachimecha. I think Nocturne is okay in terms of the draft. We knew he was going to suffer early, not when you play it like this. Hachimecha at this point has dived in 3 times too deep, and all 3 of those deaths have been, honestly, of their own creation. DFM pounce upon the prize which is put towards them, but now you have no paranoia for the next minute to try and stop the setup. DFM, of course, will have to contend that around the dragon spawn for that soul, but Hachimecha seriously missing the mark so far.
And this is the problem with Rascal Jesters comp. They have one way to go in. They have lots of ways to counter-engage with, with the Orianna and the Aphelios and even the Viego to an extent where people dive in too deep to you, and you've got a lot of zone control with all the turrets you can put down and the ball and the death sentence and the rest of it. And of course, the paranoia can come in to re-engage, right? But that's not what's going on. DFM is saying, well, we don't care. We scale just fine as well. As we got Ryze and Ezreal, who, can win out in a lot of these poke wars.
Speaking of Ezreal, burns the Guardian, has a red buff on, takes a fifth of Secret's HP. Each of these Mystic shots doing a lot of work for the future fight.
Exactly, and this is one of those things. He's got Frozen Heart now as well. Like, even if you do dive onto him, he's really hard to kill.
He is, and that's going to be another mitigating factor for HachiMecha going in, which means that if DFM gets to the objective first, which they are going to at this point, yes, you see the Viego resetting, but DFM have themselves mid lane priority. You see where Utapon is stood in the lane, very happy to do so. HachiMecha then has to be the engage, because you have lacked engage. You don't have a Leona, you don't have a Rel, don't have a Kalista, anything like that. You have to dive down the throat, down the gaping maw of DFM's bristling guns. Utapon needs to not get caught to do that, though.
He goes over the wall and is fine, but needs to be a little afraid. There's still options to things like Paranoia. Does avoid the death sentence. He's doing what he did the last fight, which is hang around this side. That's the Paranoia popped. Good buffer on the Arcane Shift. Dragon down. It's taken by HachiMecha. That stops the soul going over. It's a decent shockwave now, but the front line from DFM holds strong for now. The Infernal does very little, but DFM's health bar is so low. Guard about to end. Gang goes in. It's a 1-for-1 right now, but look at the back end. HachiMecha needs to think about getting out the back of the pit. Arya thinking of realm warping forwards. Utapon needs to go over the wall. He's off vision. That means Soul's so low to dying. Flashing! And Utapon wins this one. Good God, he's a monster.
It starts with DFM, honestly, flubbing the Drake start. It starts with Steel losing too much HP to, of all things, Sol's Crescendum turret. It sits down there and Steel has to back off from the Dragon. Loses something like 50% of his HP just to this one ability of Sol. But Utapon's hit the items, has the Frozen Heart, is happy to play very close to the edge, just the Razor's Edge as always. And in the Juggernaut match, DFM lost that game too after having that stunning advantage taken away from them. Doesn't look like it's going to be the case in this one, as the Baron secured the first neck-breaking advantage comes in. The back-breaking, the straw which breaks it, comes in for DFM.
And you have to call it out. Utapon in this fight is a monster. Who needs a front line to stand behind? You flank on Ezreal, mate.
So, look at what happens here. I want you to keep your eyes on Steel, because that one turret there, actually the two of them put together, takes down about 80% of Steel's health very, very quickly. I don't think he even realizes what's happening. You can see that's why he has to back off. All well and good that gang's coming in. All well and good that Ebby's started getting themselves in too, but the Shockwave denies the engage slightly. The Infernum doesn't get the best value, but DFM's frontline doesn't actually get the best themselves. Sol flashes out the original engage, which is, again, very, very threatening towards DFM. Utapon flashes out, uses all of his insane mobility, because, of course, Sol doesn't have it at that point, and Utapon takes down the one threat that can kill him in close range, and then cleans up the fight.
Frozen Heart and Utapon on Ezreal. It is a gorgeous sight to behold. We've seen Ebby carry, we've seen Arya carry. Utapon doesn't get as much chance these days, as we've said, but this game he's been given priority. This game he's been given Blades. This game he's been given Ezreal, and there's another fight going on, and that's actually 3v4. DFM still going to be just fine. They're quite tanky. Of course, they've got their own gore drinkers, so heal up just fine. And finally, the mid lane tower falls. Rascal Jesters can't hold it any longer. Gold starting to balloon for DFM. They've still got a minute and a half on this Baron, and they're going to start trying to get some more of these waves shoved in. They're not in the best position right now, actually, so that is a saving grace for Rascal Jesters.
So you do get, of course, a lot of standing gold from Baron. You do get that, and then they take down the mid lane outer turret, which, yes, it's not breaking down an inner turret. It's not breaking down an inhibitor turret. Mid lane outer turret, though, is the most important of the outer ring, and that has finally been broken, which means that DFM, who are already gaining mid priority, will get themselves...
Oh, that's nasty.
The problem is, though, that's actually... I was about to say, wow, yeah, now they get the disparity in mid lane. You now have a long lane in mid too. HachiMecha, who has failed to find the engage so many times, might have another angle if DFM screw up their mid lane priority arm wrestle towards the next dragon, which will be coming up in 2 minutes. But DFM use the dregs of their Baron buff to finally take themselves an inner turret in that bot lane. They'll get themselves a little bit more gold on the table.
So they are 4-man strong shoving up here. Ari's a little way away, but does have teleport. Careful,
but Paranoia doesn't let you do that.
But Paranoia is going to be too late because Arya was so swift on that TP. Gang gets hooked, but it's an Alistair. He doesn't care. Jesters look for the turnaround and don't really get it. Paranoia is down now, and now they are in a position where it's like, well, do you actually have the ability to get onto this 4-man unit anymore? Arya's going to retreat away and start to reclaim the mid-wave that he's prepped earlier. It's Blue Peter, mate. They're going to show you the wave they started earlier, and they get to walk back over and shove up here as well.
But how sick was that teleport? Response to the Paranoia. There's a half second or so where Utapon does get hooked, but buffers out. Arya gets the teleport down as the vision is fading. He didn't have a spell shield at that point. It's not like you have a Banshees to ignore that. Arya potentially saved his team a game-losing fight by getting there down with the global. He wouldn't be able to commit with a flash or realm or what have you. And now, of course, HachiMecha will have that ultimate before the next fight. Does have a decent amount of CDR built up at this point, but Rascal Jesters once again swinging a miss from this engage combo.
Cyril just grudged out him for Utapon as well to make it even harder to deal with him.
Yeah, we're eating critical Utapon mass.
Yeah, it's 4 items on Ezreal, incidentally, guys, plus a stopwatch, plus flash, plus heal, plus
if we have
plus front lines.
So if we have like the Church of Aria, do we have to go to critical Utapon mass for our other religious uses?
Days. Well, the heretics on Rascal Jesters would love to come and deal with that particular option, and they may be looking to come in and crash that critical Utapon mass at some point this game. They've tried, it's been very hard work. That is now a significant goal difference, 6,500 with a comp that scales pretty damn well. It's a front line that Rascal Jesters are struggling to deal with, but there are 3 items onto Sol. There are 2.5 onto Recap. There's an angle potentially here, and it's another Sol fight.
It is. Utapon use the E quite aggressively there. Misses more Qs. Every time Utapon lands a Q, that's extra mobility for him. Gang gets the combo.
Gets a true shot barrage, his secret's down very low, has to flash out from that Mystic shot. Down comes the Crescendum Sentinel turret, down to 3,000 HP, goes the Dragon. Will we see a Paranoia? It's not. That's the Soul secured by DFM, and they're realm warping in. They want to go for an engage, they're looking for more. Gang gets a knock up onto Hatchamecha, engage on the engager, the Shockwave gets 3. That means the Gang is left a little out to dry, but Soul's just not in the fight. He's having to retreat away, he couldn't get to the rest of his team. He needs to be afraid about how he's getting in. It's a good lantern, and that allows people to escape from Rascal Jesters.
No kills. Now the creative players, the word we keep replying to these Rise Well mobs coming out of DFM. They have themselves the extra move speed now. Talk about how important that is. If Arya is actually starting the fights with a Realm Warp, that extra move speed is crucial. You're going to get that extra 30%. You can see how close it gets. This is the time where Recap's Shockwave is very important in that disengaged style of fight. Sol is cut off from that team. Very dangerous positioning for Rascal Jester. And again, as much as we've been walking on the knife's edge, it seems like it's tipping closer and closer towards the heart of Rascal Jester and their fan base, as this could be what looks like a 2-0 advantage to DFM. Do have themselves that gold lead, and again, the game which DFM threw in some ways, had stolen away from them, had it torn out of their hands, was with Sol and Secret having significantly more engaged potential. But DFM have not allowed them the Callisto in the first 2 games of this series. They haven't allowed them for Sol and Secret to impact those mid-game fights and find those picks that they so desperately needed in that series. And DFM look mighty comfortable in this lead right now.
I'm cackling with kind of joy here because the Ezreal is just so good to watch. It's a pleasure to see him on this. Of course,
that last Dragon fight, completely soloed by Utapon. And the one before that, all of the poke which came out, the one person with a range advantage over Rascal Jester has been Ezreal. We now have a threaten of a start onto the Baron, and Kinatsu feels threatened enough that he teleports into the mid lane looking to brute force the mid priority, but Ari's not there. He's happy to push out bot wave and start again.
Okay, so now there's a little bit of an option where some of the DFM members are a touch split, but Rascal Jester at this point, I don't think even if you go in with some of your big combos, you actually get a kill on Utapon right now. He's got Stopwatch and Frozen Heart, and he's just so hard to actually kill as this Ezreal. You know, you can burst him, but it'll only go down about half HP. You need extended damage, and that's so hard to guarantee.
Much like in game 1 with that huge lead, DFM have the luxury defense. It's very cost efficient for the single fight, which if they win, wins them the game. Yes, if they lose,
here we go.
It's still gold out of pocket. You kind of artificially reduce that gold lead, but DFM sitting very happy with the itemization that they have right now. There are stopwatches on Rascal Jester to have on the other side. If they lose that fight, though, that's gold that I don't know if they can afford to lose. All comes down to this next fight.
Arya and Recap are in the bot lane. I don't know whether it's a double teleport. They're both going to be here. Of course, Ryze has the Realm Warp, so he's still got that option. They're quite happy having burned that teleport. And it's back to the waiting game. DFM are playing this one patiently, and I can't blame them in a lot of ways. They have to be afraid of diving too deep themselves. And of course, with the way the Ezreal's at, it's kit critical mass. There's no one who really wants to tank that on the side of Rascal. Just you've got a few people who can heal it, but there's no real frontline who wants to sit there and just take the abuse that Ezreal has been dishing out pretty much since the 15-minute mark. And I'll offer a silver lining for Jesters. You have got a Viego.
Do.
If you can find the combo.
You have another item built up onto Sol. There is a bit of positioning coming through here. Realm Warp on towards the Baron. How quickly can they take it?
All right, they're going to start burning it down. Everybody from the Jesters needs to come over, but it's already down to 2/3. Make that half HP. Here comes Hatchamecha, and DFM are going to look for the turn. Gang used the Unbreakable Will, but he's taken very low. It's a double knock-up in trade, but now Gang is low and has to back up. In goes Steel, and he needs to stay alive. The Shockwave only lands onto one, doesn't get a lot. And DFM actually don't find as much from that. It's a big Infernum ult. But DFM are going to have to back away. There's a honey fruit. And actually, the attempt from DFM actually doesn't really work out all that well. That silver lining has kind of got a little wider because 4 items on Sol It's a scary prospect
Before that
as well.
fight, just before that, resets to get the 4th item, get the Hurricane. If you clump up, you explode. You see what happens with almost like a suboptimal Inferno. Doesn't spread across absolutely everyone with the AoE spreading. DFM kill that Baron so incredibly quickly. Not quickly enough, though, to stop Rascal Jesters' approach. Again, appreciate it. Appreciate the bold attempt. And the Realm Warp is not the largest cooldown to blow. Also, remember, DFM have 30 extra ability haste onto their ultimates. If they blow that Realm Warp, blow that Unbreakable Will, actually
It's
not
nearly off
that
cooldown.
large of a committal. It's, in fact, Gang will have another 3 seconds on that, and then they will have their ultimate back
Off
available.
cooldown.
DFM have burned absolutely nothing for the attempt, and if Rascal Jesters slip up on that just one time, that's game. That's lights out for them. Give up that one Baron. I feel like the DFM closed the doors on this series, but they are doing such a good job to ram their foot into that gap which has been left open.
Cast your eyes down to Utopon's inventory one more time, and you'll notice there's a GA that's just been picked up as well. So, he's getting increased. Like, if he was already hard to kill, nearly impossible, like, it's another level. It's another life bar they've got to deal with. They're going to teleport back in. Secrets there. They're going to start trying to zone out. Gang is here as bodyguard.
So Recap's not here, doesn't have teleport, but Gang is caught.
He is caught, but he's got Unbreakable Will. Remember, he's on a very low cooldown, down to 3,000 HP. They're going to potentially go in. It's too late. It's gone down. Gang now is probably going to be the sacrificial lamb. He's so damn tanky, but he does fall. That is the trade they make. It is stolen by Kinatu. That's an engage option they've been desperate to look for. Back to the tower. The Moonlight Vigil misses, and good lord, the damage from Utopon. They need to escape now. They're getting engaged on. They've split up. Hatchemecha needs to flash out. It's the fear that come through. Flash in from Arya. On the other side, though, Steel potentially gone too deep himself. Hatchemecha's gone golden. He had stopwatch all this time. Arya finds a final spell. Flux. It's too dead. And Utopon is just too strong, too good. The shockwave from Recap means nothing at all. And Detention FocusMe in a 4-for-1 trade with Baron will send 2 to hold Recap here and take him apart one more time. Ezreal and the Rise will shove in, and Detention FocusMe surely are moving to 2-0 in this finals here in summer.
Recap has flash, potentially can kill off Steel, but he can't go back to wave clear. There's no one at the base. Jade stood undefended, and DFM take a 2-0 advantage.
They played it patient. They played it against the dive. They waited till Utopon was a weapon of mass destruction. And Detention FocusMe find themselves at match and make it series point in this finals.
Might have taken a blue screen to get to it, but we've got ourselves a blue wall to contend with now, and it'll have to turn purple. Add some red into the mix, might have some blood spoil on the ground from Rascal Jesters. They will have to now reverse sweep in a finals. The last time that we saw anything close to that was 2020 summer, where DFM very nearly got that 5-game victory versus V3. It has been a hell of a long time since then, though. A year feels like a long time, and Rascal Jesters, they have the tallest of tasks now at their feet.
I've got to call it out. Different play style from DFM, focusing bot. Different style of play in terms of how they played the mid and early game. Bit more patient, wait for Rascal Jesters to come in, scale up a little bit more. Play it that style against things like the Nocturne that could have snowballed out of control. And it earns them a second game win. Series point. We'll be cutting to a very brief break. And when we come back, the analyst desk will break it all down.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the desk. Mars 1 Midnight. Melvin Izzle Joshi. I feel like I need to make a musical out of this because this is a symphony for Detention FocusMe and a tragedy for Rascal Jester at this moment. And the man that I think we are currently having the most concern about, at least in the back room, in the green room, is Hachamecha Midnight.
Yeah, this is starting to become a significant problem, is the polite way of wording that one there. Hachamecha's jungle pool is just confusing the hell out of me. The Jarvan I talked about, I don't like Jarvan as the go-to champion. Didn't fit the comp, and I'm just not
Didn't
a fan
play
of it.
it.
Didn't play it. The Nocturne wasn't much better in this situation. It was a moment of, oh, there's an Ezreal. I'm going to ult the Ezreal, who has Flash and E available. Okay, crap. Let's ult someone else. Or we could ult the Immobile Rise. Oh, no. The Xin Zhao. That looks good. It's just, I don't get. The pick doesn't make sense in this. I don't know what the pick was for. And the targeting was just, I'd hate to be rude, but abysmal.
I feel like we got a big meme that we have here again in North America where we call a bunch of champions that do similar things. We say they're the same thing, right? So you got like green Sejuani, you got like a mummy Sejuani. This is a very similar thing, right? Where you have Jarvan, regular Jarvan, then you have spooky Jarvan, which is Nocturne, which is actually a little bit better than regular Jarvan in a lot of ways, but it didn't do anything, right? It's been really questionable to actually see how this has been playing. And so we've been talking about like you go back to a different class of champions. No more Jarvans. Let's get the Sejuanis in here. We can get the actual Sejuani. We can get green Sejuani. We just need something that allows him to actually do the engage on his own and stay in the fight because that's not something he's been able to do on either Jarvan or Spooky Jarvan.
I mean, Rascal Jester having difficulties, Jarvan, Nocturne, maybe not picks. We'll see. Maybe that Sejuani will come out. Maybe we'll go back to the Xin Zhao and they'll just first pick it. We'll have to wait and see. Or the Lee Sin. He's been playing a lot of Lee Sin, so who knows? Though on the other side, come to you, Joshi. Detention FocusMe look freaking great right now. Like,
Yeah, they have a very clear playbook of what they've been looking to do, right? We saw the exact same dive, in game 1 and game 2 towards the bot lane is around the 8-minute mark. You go down bot lane, you use the Realm Warp, and suddenly you have a bunch of members. It wasn't quite as fruitful for them this time, but it still happened at the exact same time. And then we just repeated and rinsed and recycled everything that we were looking at with the dragons, right? We saw 4 times in a row, DFM lined up, Utah was chilling off near the blue buff bush, and every single time, Rascal Jester just took forever to decide what they wanted to do, and most of the time just watch DFM take the dragon. You can't afford to do that against a team this strong, and they've been showing that they don't need to switch up their plays if you're not going to force them to.
why would they, right? Why would you have to change up your play? Melvin, what are you thinking about this series so far?
So I was just staring at the draft, trying to figure it out again, and it feels like we keep talking about the jungle. But I also want to bring attention to the fact that we've had Orianna on blue 3 both times, which means Hachamecha can't just pick up their Xin Zhao, because in both the games where DFM have took it, it's been on that red 4 pick, which really means they could have been banned, it could have been taken away, there have been options, but it's just going back to this Orianna both times, something that I feel like needs to get changed up. Speaking of needing to get changed up, I do have a clip ready for the Baron the end of that
Go
one.
on, give us a lookie.
Well, alright, let's take a look at it, because this was near the end of the game, and it was one of those many Baron attempts where DFM just want to leverage the fact that they have this global in the form of the Realm Warp. Every single time Rascal Jester show to look at the side lane, to want to show mid lane, we can have DFM just jump over there. With the fact that they have the Cloud Soul and 3 Cloud Dragons, this play is on an insanely low cooldown. And the fact that you can force things like the Paranoia, especially pre-16, force things like having the teleports off cooldown now, means that it's only a matter of time before DFM get the fight they want to. And this was finally the point where it went out of Rascal Jester's favor, but not really for the reasons you're expecting. So, we have the teleport in, they get straight on the Baron. They don't have the fastest Baron in the world, but just watch the amount of time. You can start a mental timer right here as soon as I press play on how long it takes Rascal Jester to acknowledge gank. Start count. There you go. Have it passively going. I'm playing now.
1.
All right. Keep it going. Come on. Still looking at this Alistair. Still not killed
7,
the Alistair.
8, 9.
All right, what was the timer? How long was it
10
on that Alistair? 7?
10 seconds. 10 until
10?
he died. He died at 10 seconds.
10 seconds they spend killing this Alistair, right? And you can see because of it, everybody on Rascal Jester, with the exception of their Orianna, is currently clumped up around here on the minimap, which is not really in a position where you can actually interrupt the recalls of DFM. And there was a brief moment, I'm going to try and get to it right here, where I thought maybe Rascal Jester can flip the game and actually take control. If they go over this wall, we have Kanatu on the Alistair. They have the flash. I was looking at this like this is a wombo combo. Unfortunately, their Orianna is over here, as we mentioned earlier, so there's no good reason to go for this. Sol doesn't have the Infernum. They do have the Moonlight Vigil to go for the ult, but it will not be enough damage. They're completely aware of this. They just don't have the stats to take this fight. A 3 versus 4 into a team that just took Baron is asking for trouble. Arya's got the Rabadons, and you can see that on the subject of asking for trouble, Rascal Jester continue to do so. As they chase him, but they can't commit to anything. None of the abilities really tag for them, and now they've split up. We're talking about how 3 didn't want to take on 4, but now, you look at this, it's 2 separate groups of 2, and DFM are like, wait a minute, we were going to reset, but we have teleport available. This Realm Warp that we used at the start of the fight is 1/3 off of cooldown. If we keep this going for long, we could look for more plays. And so they just chase down the Rascal Jester squad that goes back into the river, and by the time everybody groups up again, it's just 2 split up. Again, watch on the side, Steel eating so much damage on this Zinzao. It's just a matter of target selection for Rascal Jester that's really gone poorly for them. And that's what ends up losing them the game. We have just the chase on to Recap, but the game literally ends as they kill Recap by the end of it.
What a performance from the side of Detention FocusMe, identifying, well and truly, gang. You can't milk those. Like, oh my god, 10 seconds he survived. What a performance from him. Thank you very much, Melvin Isle, for enlightening and making everyone that's watching this a little bit more smarter. Just because we need the intelligence. Anyway,
Like, for that reason.
You okay there, Lexi?
Exactly. Yes, absolutely. No,
We need another clipboard.
I know. I need a panel. If I don't have something to tell me what I need to say, I struggle sometimes. Who knows, gentlemen? 2 games are upon us, down and out. Detention FocusMe are 2-0 at the moment. I'm going to come over to you first, Midnight, then you, Joshi, and Andis with Melvin. We're getting a 3-0. Why that? Why yes or why no?
So I was the one person here who was feeling optimistic that Rascal Jesters would win this. Now, I'm going to double down. I'm gonna even look like the biggest idiot. Yeah. That's the reaction I expected. So, right now, I think one of the biggest problems that is hurting Rascal Jester, I've talked about it enough times. I think the jungler is just, he looks so uncomfortable. He looks like he doesn't know what he's meant to do, and maybe he's panicking a little bit. Give him something that can last these fights. We talked about the Sejuani. There are a bunch of these tanky champions. Take the Xin Zhao. Do something. Stop giving Steel his Xin. I just, you've got to change up. You've got to give him something he's comfortable on. Because if Hachimecha gets a good game, I think we could genuinely see a turnaround. But if Hachimecha continues to struggle, continues to just be a bit of a ward, DFM's just going to take this in a 3-0.
Yoshi.
I agree with parts of what Midnight just said, right? I think if Rascal Jester turn it around, if they win game 3, we're going to 5 games. But the worry that I have is if I'm one of the players in those games, my mental is shattered, right? The first game was bad. We got absolutely destroyed. Second game, we tried to make things happen, but we were never able to do it. As we look at game 3, it's going to be very difficult for them to try and find anything. And I feel like the momentum that DFM have built up means we're more likely to see a 3-0 than going to a game 5.
Melvin is to close us.
That's
momentum.
It's all about momentum. It is just the fact that it's so hard to stop this kind of force. The reason reverse sweeps are so dramatic and so entertaining to watch is because they're infrequent. I think Rascal Jester have the tools in these players to pull something out and get one game off of them. At this point, if we do not see drastic changes, I don't even think that the changes we saw in this game were close enough to drastic. Like, I want the entire table flipped if we're going to see this game go out of DFM's favor.
So flip it up and reverse it. DFM currently have momentum, map awareness, and the macro and micro play. They've got all the M's, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go to a short break here at the LJLOU, but when we return, game number 3 will be here. Match point for DFM. Don't go anywhere.